Hi all, I have a very exciting game to show you today from the chess Olympiad in round 8. Georgia was up against Ukraine. The mighty Ukraine team has a load of players above like 2647 as their bottom board. So Georgia's a bit outrated on average. The top board clash, this is the top board clash from that match. Let's have a look at this. So Jobova has a reputation of being a really creative, exciting player. And he plays d4. He doesn't usually play mainline stuff. He's an exponent of knight c3. So I believe this is the Veresov system. So d5, bishop f4, c5, e3. It seems a little bit awkward to block the c pawn, but white has extra pressure on central squares with the knight immediately. We have c takes d4, e takes, and now a6, as though black really is trying to potentially victimize this knight, maybe gain a tempo later with b5 and b4 at some point, which would help control e4. Bishop d3. This is a little bit unusual actually. In this position, quite often knight f3 is played, and we have a sequence like this which is quite popular. Black giving up the queenside bishop. An interesting position though, very interesting position. So bishop d3, we have knight coming to c6, and there's a continual threat in this game, well, for quite a bit of the opening now, of knight b4. Some players might be cautious about their light square bishop. This next move, knight g2, is saying, so what to knight b4. And it's possible that black could play knight b4. There's no major punishment. For example, this position, but it's not that clear cut. The knights are actually pretty good here. With a6, maybe these squares are important to white, so it's not that clear cut. Anything major is to be gained from knight b4. Black just plays e6. We have queen d2, and again knight b4 is interesting. But black played b5. We have castling kingside. That does, it is seemingly a lot safer to castle kingside here. If queenside, black's already got a ready-made attack here. Queen a5 and a2 is vulnerable. This is not the sort of position you really want with the white pieces, where your king's getting attacked, for example, like this. Black could even have the exchange of queens off because the attack would just continue. Just as an example, it's just horrible. That'd be horrible for white. So yeah, sensible to castle kingside here against this b5. Bishop e7. Here actually white's in a position with knight b4 to play knight c1 actually, to get the knight in relation to these critical squares. So for example like this is okay now for white. It's not such a big deal there. So bishop e7, a3 actually now stopping knight b4 finally. Okay, so bishop d7, h3. Black castles, rook fe1, knight a5, and it seems as though black's got an easy plan here, that c4 square, just to build up with rook c8 and knight c4. Rook ad1, which means actually the queen can slip back to c1 if needed, potentially. We have queen b6, knight g3, and here black plays an interesting move in this position. After knight g3, black plays a kind of maybe a provocative move, maybe a potentially he just didn't estimate white's dynamics here. Black played the move rook fc8, and we're quite often taught, we shouldn't have unprotected pieces. And here there is an unprotected piece. Actually, just from the golden rule of not having unprotected pieces, rook fe8 is implied, just to make sure this is protected, right? And this position, there's no real dangers, I believe, for black. Black's doing fine here. It should be about equal, this sort of position. But with what was played, maybe black Ponomariov thought there's no big deal about this bishop. We have knight f5. And things get a bit crazy here. I mean, seriously crazy in both the game and the variations after this. Ponomariov decides in this position to try and trap white's rook. He actually purposely takes on f5 with the idea of trapping the rook after rook takes bishop e6. Now, that's the game continuation. Now, before we get into that, what if the black bishop just retreated? Now this is just crazy stuff in these variations. I have to show you, to be honest, otherwise you will not appreciate the subtleties behind the scenes. I want to take you behind the scenes of this game. Bishop f8. Can you see what white can play here? And this is crazy stuff. If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, knight h6. Apparently this is a really strong move in this position. If the king moves, then we can clearly just take on f7 and then knight e5, for example. So let's go with g takes. What's the big deal? Bishop takes h6. Now threatening queen g5 check. So say bishop takes, queen takes. This position here is actually mega dangerous for black. There's things like rook lifts. The knight's attacked. Rook e5, for example, rook g5. So say knight c6. Yeah, because if the knight moves, but also in this particular position, just bishop takes h7. Pardon me, it's even more optimal. So yeah, black's in grave danger here after this knight h6 check. This position is grave danger. So say knight c6. Queen takes. This is just really good for white. So this doesn't seem plausible to play like this. And if queen d8 check, this position is very nice. It's good for white. White's better. So yeah, all of this stuff after bishop f8, knight h6, basically it seems to favour white here. It really does. So knight f5 is the game continuation. So e takes, rook takes, and it's as though the rook's trapped because of queen d8. So has white blundered? Well, guess what white plays here now? And this is also leading to a crazy maze of variations, which seems to actually be really good for white. Technically, the undertone to this is black's given up his dark square bishop. So theoretically, from a theoretical sense, even if we couldn't see the position, we could say, well, has black, because white's got the dark square bishop, has black got tactical vulnerabilities on the dark squares? And this next move kind of echoes that fundamental property of the position. What does white play here? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, bishop h6. Yeah, it's pretty cool in all the lines, this move. Now black took on h6. He didn't think there was anything better than taking on h6. It's fascinating. It's spectacular, actually, some of this stuff. If black doesn't take, all right, let's imagine king f8. Guess what white can play here? This is just in the realms of major tactics, basically. White to play here. Okay, bishop takes g7, check. And if king takes, bishop takes f6, knight takes d5, and lo and behold, there's another loose piece over here, the queen being echoed with queen h6 check. Yeah, there's absolutely crazy forcing lines based on even the slightly loose queen as well here. So king f8 is not really working that well. So king f8, and if king takes, check. here is actually also fascinating. This position, if knight c6, rook takes e6, and that's very nice. So what does black play here? If rook d8, bishop takes f5 is very nice. The bishop can't take as a queen f7, and this is failing because the bishop takes e6. So if rook takes e7, it's mate. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's fascinating that this position is much better for white. Queen d8, rook takes e6 is one move, which springs to mind here. Okay, so if queen d8 here, sorry, this is another critical, very interesting line where white's pieces are hanging that I wanted to get to show. In this position, queen g5, threatening mate, and if queen f8, that would be holding, but white's here has, this is really superb stuff on the dark squares. This is why I really wanted to show you this. What does white have in this position? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, bishop takes g7. It's butchery on the dark squares, basically. If king takes, check. Yeah, this is actually possible. Because if queen takes e7 is mate. This position's good for white. And if knight c6, bishop takes f5, just in time. So that if knight takes, yeah, we've got queen h8, knight g8, but white plays bishop takes e6 here. And if queen e8, white's winning like this. Yeah, with a much better position. It's crushing. Yeah, it's just remarkable stuff here. All of these lines are rather remarkable. Okay, so not queen g5, bishop takes g7 is the crushing move there. And you might think, hold on a sec, what about knight h5? So clearly queen h6 is no good, knight takes g7. But there's a fantastic move in this position. Can you see if I give you 5 seconds? It's dark square magic, it's pyrotechnics all the time. Bishop f6. So if knight takes, check, queen takes f6, and we're reaching similar positions where queen takes e7 is impossible as a queen h8. And if this position, yeah, this is good for white. It's similar to what we've seen before. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go back to the game continuation now, which was just taking. I think Ponomariov has seen some of that stuff, or all of it. Yeah, so queen takes h6. We have rook takes c3. And actually black doesn't last that long from here anyway now. After check, queen takes f6 now. Yeah, this is really good for white. Black took on d3 and the game ended abruptly. Actually, c takes d3 and black resigned. And you might think, well, why did black resign? If he plays rook c6, bishop takes f5 is really good. The bishop can't move because of f7. And if this position, that's winning for white. Bishop takes e6, we're going to mate on f7. So rook c6 is not really helping in this position. So let's look at this now, the game continuation. So c takes d3. Let's imagine, say, queen c6. Just rook e1, threatening rook takes e6. Here, we just smash through with this. Just winning the queen, if black's going to have to give up the queen there. And yeah, there's always ideas, by the way, if like queen d6, there's this checkmate pattern here echoing again. So, you know, that rook is not so easy to win. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting game, but it's the behind the scenes variations which echo a lot of dark square pyrotechnics, basically, after black's given up that dark square bishop to apparently try and win the rook, but he's in for nasty surprises. Yeah, fascinating stuff. It shows the nature of king safety in conjunction with dark square weaknesses and not having the dark square bishop, I believe. It's a very good example game showing the spectrum of tactics available. Hope you got something from it. Comments, questions, likes, appreciated. Thanks very much.